Welcome to the MassTLC Security Community Coffee With, featuring members of the community sharing their insights and perspectives on pressing security and security operations for your company. I'd like to thank our security community sponsors, Devo, Nuance, PwC, Sonatype, and Vectra, and the MassTLC Global sponsors for supporting our efforts throughout the year.
Hi, and welcome to the second of the Coffee With series. My name is Kevin O'Brien. I'm one of the security co-chairs at the Mass Technology Leadership Council, and I am joined today by Chris Wysopal. Chris is co-founder and CTO of Veracode. And also many years ago, almost 20 plus years ago, Chris was a colleague when I was a starstruck 17-year-old, I think, and had the opportunity to work very briefly as an intern with At Stake, which was a place that Chris had been part of through his membership in The Loft, which was a hacking group in the Boston area, Cambridge area. And so I had this really unique opportunity to fall in love with cybersecurity, primarily by watching these guys do things that just blew my mind back in the day. And so I'm really excited to have Chris with me today. Chris, I know Veracode has had a really interesting and exciting few years. Can you just give a quick rundown for the audience on what that's looked like?
Yeah, sure. So yeah, thanks for having me on your coffee here, Kevin. Veracode is now 15 years old, and we've gone through some different phases as a company. I think the first 10 years, that was your VC track on your way to some sort of exit. For us, it happened to be in 2017. We got acquired by CA Technologies to be their application security testing business unit. But 18 months later, we were barely getting integrated in, and CA got bought by Broadcom, and Broadcom decided to that our business unit really didn't fit their strategy, and they wanted to spin us out and get some quick cash. So we were on the market and a lot of private equity looked at buying out this business unit, and we ended up getting bought by Thoma Bravo for $950 million in 2018. So now got a little more than 2 years under the belt now as a private independent company, part of a PE portfolio.
Yeah, as you and I were joking about before we started the recording, Veracode has had the entire experience, right? You've gone VC, you've gone acquisition, and thus public as a result, you've gone PE. You kind of hit all the boxes for what can happen.
No, totally. I think the only box we can do is IPO ourselves, and that is definitely a possibility. So we'll see what happens over the next couple of years.
Yeah, you'll have covered literally every base possible at that point. So interesting to sort of look at that from a security perspective. And one of the things that you and I have talked about a little bit was how you think about bringing other organizations in. So if you're in acquisition mode and you're thinking through a potential company's merger with yours, there are a lot of security and diligence questions that come up. And I know our time is short on these coffee withs, but just from a high level, what do you think about, and what should a company that's being acquired be thinking about from that perspective?
Yeah, so we've done this a couple times. We've acquired a couple small companies, and also, of course, we were acquired. So I've been through the process, and the way I like to think about it is, if I was to acquire a company, would I want that company to have my employee data, my customers' data? Would I want to be having that company's technology attached to mine through APIs or whatever? So a way you can do that is to think of, hey, this is a new SaaS provider we're going to be using for HR data or financial data or something like that. And what would that vendor acquisition compliance look like? You'd probably be asking for a SOC 2. You'd probably be saying, have you had a pen test recently? And if you're regulated, you would be asking about how you're complying with the different regulations. So I think that's a good lens to look through. Essentially, it's like vendor management on steroids, right? You're just going to turn everything up. And one thing to think about is, a lot of times if you're doing vendor management, you're looking at one product or one service within an organization. And one thing you need to learn is it's not evenly distributed, because a lot of companies themselves are made up from acquisition. So one product might have a great security program behind it, and another product might be just recently purchased from a startup, and they have a lot of maturity to go. So that's the lens I look through it. And then you have to look across, of course, the whole organization, not the small lens you do when you're just, say, acquiring a SaaS service or something like that.
Yeah, it's a great way to start putting that framework in place, and a helpful discussion, and something we talk about on the MassTLC CISO Roundtable community events that we hold, where many of our members who are information security professionals come in and say, I'm grappling with this, and how do I think about going through my first SOC, or dealing with this ISO certification, or I'm looking at bringing on board a partner or a new vendor, and I'm grappling with CCPA or GDPR or any of those different regulatory frameworks that are obviously first and foremost about protecting consumer data, but also huge headaches for organizations to deal with if they've never done it before. So I think it's a great way for us to frame the discussion. Chris, it was a lot of fun to see you, even just briefly, my friend, and thanks for joining us on this.
Oh, thanks for having me, Kevin.
Thank you for watching Coffee With. And another thank you to our security community sponsors, Devo Nuance, PwC, Sonatype, and Vectra, and to the MassTLC global sponsors.